What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Welcome once again to this week's installment of the Dads, Not Always, on Wrestling. And this week is definitely one of those weeks where we are not going to be talking about wrestling, folks. If you can peep the background behind the West Coast Professor, Mr. Jeff Meacham there, he's got Walt and Mickey. If you can see what's behind me, you got Batman, you got Superman, you got Iron Man and C-3PO. We're going to get into today our top 10 favorite franchises. Now, before we get deeper into that, let me just say a couple of things. Number one, please remember, this is a subjective list. This doesn't necessarily mean these are the 10 best, but they are our 10 personal favorites. Number two, we define franchise as any series with at least 3 or more movies. We had to really work at that because, you could seriously argue that Frozen at this point is becoming a franchise, but there's only today 2 movies. Yes, there's a bunch of shorts, Olaf's Frozen Adventure and Frozen Fever and whatever else, but there are only 2 movies at this point, so it does not quite qualify as of yet, at least not until we get that 3rd installment. So, that being said, Jeff Meacham, normally you give me the dubious honors of going first, but since the non-wrestling weeks are more my cup of tea, why don't you go ahead and kick things off for us, and then I'll bring it home.
Well, I will say 2 things before I get going here into my spiel. Number 1, I also included franchises that have spun off or also generated television entries as well, because the majority of my list also has television iconography, if you will. However, they are based primarily in movie lore, or in some cases, book lore that went into movie lore. So there's that. And on the subject of book and movies, in either of our lists will you not see The Lord of the Rings, because I refuse ever to give acknowledgement to a series of movies that, if you count just the original trilogy, is 9 hours of goddamn walking. Okay, number 1. Number 2, there is only one return of in the movie lores, and it ain't the damn king, folks. Number 3, no. Just no. I know y'all love Lord of the Rings, some of you, and that's wonderful. Yeah. I don't hate on you for liking Lord of the Rings more than my 10, JJ's 10. But if you are looking for a franchise list that features Lord of the Rings and are not, pissed off at me for digging on Lord of the Rings, stay. But if you are upset with me, then we'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay.
I'm not as spiteful about Lord of the Rings as Jeff just came off, but I did go to see The Fellowship in theaters and fell asleep, and because of that I refused to try it again, because if I fell asleep in the theaters at the first showing of the day, we're not even talking about close to bedtime, folks, but the first showing of the day, then I'm just not going to get into the series. Likewise, and I'm sure this franchise is on your list, Meech, because I know you well enough, I've never been a fan of the Potter series.
Right.
I've tried watching the first movie on at least 2, if not 3 different occasions, and it just didn't hook me.
Right.
I know you love it. I'm sure it's on your list. I'm sure people at home love it and would probably rank it close to the top of their lists. But it's just not for me. That's why we want to make sure to say that this is subjective.
Right. It's very subjective. So.
And it's totally cool that you have some that include television in your franchises also, because I totally do too. Like you said, while the majority of my list is definitely rooted in movies, part of what makes a franchise is what it's able to spin off to.
Right. I mean, if you look at my list, one of them started as TV. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a lot of cross pollination for sure. Like the majority of my list is both. At some point, but I focused on the movie impact based on my overall list. So, number 10. In a time growing up in my teen years where I was much more Disney loved than anything else when it came to animated movies and whatnot, a giant on character-wise, but a small little green ogre from Scotland warmed my heart and brought me out of my everything but Disney sucks mood. Shrek. Dude, could Mike Myers touch anything in the late 90s and not turn that shit to gold? I don't think so.
No.
Austin Powers, Shrek, anything this dude did once people realized he was more than a guy wearing a black baseball cap worshiping rock music, like, the guy's a fucking genius, right?
And let's not take anything away from Wayne's World, because
no.
Wayne's World is what started to catapult him to that superstardom.
Right.
Dare I say there would have been no Austin Powers or Shrek were it not for the success of Wayne's World.
I would agree with that. And also keep in mind that while Mike, took the Wayne's World movies and, strapped the rocket to his proverbial ass, poor Dana Carvey, really didn't go anywhere up into the stratosphere quite like Mike did. So it's Mike's comedic genius. Dana's a fucking genius, and I can watch his HBO special, on loop and not get bored ever, because, him doing the Bush impression, whatever, is just, it's just golden shit. But Mike Myers took that little nugget that we saw of, comedic mastery in the Wayne's World stuff and other things he did prior to the mid-90s and really just came into his own. And Shrek, as much as Austin Powers, Shrek was a big part of that, because Austin Powers appealed to us, horny teenage guys that were like, doing what he wanted to do, banging all the chicks and, getting all the cool gear and, whatever. But Shrek was our kid stuff. Like, Shrek appealed to our kid, and Shrek appealed to the adults too, because that moment alone in the movie where they're going to Farquaad's castle and they had that small world moment with those puppets and Shrek and Donkey freak out. It's like, dude, that is my jam. I can't stand that fucking song. Like, I am the Disney guy above Disney guys, and Lord knows when our kids were growing up, you and I together, we both sat through the same goddamn thing every single visit. We strap our fat asses into those stupid boats that weren't made for fat asses, still aren't made for fat asses, even though they've referred them 3 freaking times. And went around that little circle and went on that little ride and sat there for 20 minutes and just got lost, because our kids loved it, our girls loved it, whatever the case may be. And Shrek and Donkey just having the fuck just happened moment based on Small World made the whole movie for me right there on its own, right?
Yeah.
Then they have a wrestling reference. Then they have every fairy tale character you see in Disney put up on a pedestal the last 50 prior years and just bring them down to a human, a flawed human level. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. And then they did more of them. Like, Shrek became a franchise, and I believe
there's 4 total movies, and then there's also the little specials, the holiday spin-offs, Shrek the Halls, Shrek Scared Stupid, or whatever.
I mean, just the first movie alone, Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, John Lithgow, who does not get near enough goddamn credit. I say that to this day. John Lithgow is a freaking legend in his own damn time, despite what he may think of himself. The guy is awesome, and the whole supporting cast underneath him is, it's one of those things where if you're gonna build a movie with a franchise platform in mind, you can't find any better cast than those 4 just right there.
Yeah,
that's some Princess Bride shit right there. Like, seriously. So, which is also parodied in Shrek. So there you go. So, because Princess Bride's awesome and everything should copy Princess Bride ever. So, throwing that out there now. It's on Disney Plus. Watch it now. Seriously, pause me and go watch it, because if you haven't, you're missing out. Number 9, Jurassic Park. I remember to this day, I was 10 years old when Jurassic Park came out, and now I'm younger than you, so shut up. Sorry, it is what it is. My brother, God love him, he was 6, right? We went and saw Jurassic Park in the theaters, thinking, dinosaur movie. Oh my God. My brother had nightmares. I couldn't even tell you how long they lasted. Like,
I can believe it. I know your brother.
Scary.
I can believe it.
Fucking movie, man. Like, it's like, you're thinking, oh, it's Spielberg, it's CGI, it's no. You are not going to see E.T., folks. Okay? Wow. And then Lost World Jurassic Park was amazing. Lost World doesn't fall too far behind. Like, it's actually a really damn good movie. 3 was what it was. You know, it's not the greatest thing. You know, it's definitely not Return of the Jedi status as third movie, but you know, it's decent, right? And it brings back Sam and Laura, which is, you know, kind of what I wanted to see from the second one. We got Jeff back, but you know, Jurassic World I thought was better than I thought it was going to be. I was thoroughly impressed with that. The latest one, haven't seen the whole way through, but what I've seen was a bit overproduced, if that makes any sense. Like there was a lot of stuff in that chili bowl that, like, okay. And if they're gonna do another one or a TV series or whatever and maybe resolve some shit, cool, fine. But it's only so low because there's some points where it's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. I agree with you as Jurassic Park goes. It's not on my list. It didn't even get an honorable mention from me.
Right.
Honestly, it was just overlooked. It wasn't one of the first ones that popped into my head because I don't think of it as franchise, only because the first two were just so phenomenal and the others were just kind of meh to me.
Right.
But Jurassic Park, the original, still to this day holds up in my book as probably the best use of CGI that isn't Yoda versus Dooku.
Or Forrest Gump.
You know, because those dinosaurs were so believable. Like, you believed they found a Tyrannosaurus Rex and were able to harness its power for motion picture greatness.
Right? You know, it's
like
funny.
You see the animals of Hollywood when you go to Universal, and you see the dog that played so-and-so in this movie. You believe that was a real T-Rex.
Yeah.
A real Velociraptor.
Yep.
Real Triceratops. Like, you believed these animals were legit.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
Yeah.
And part two gets shit on a lot as being weak. Part 2 features my favorite line out of the entire franchise. Jeff Goldblum goes, "Ooh, that's how it starts. Then there's running
screaming." Yes, it's one of the greatest movie lines of all time. That's how it starts, and later comes the running and screaming. And that Jeff Goldblum voice that only Jeff Goldblum has, because oh man, his character, his little nuances make the Jurassic Park movies and they make Independence Day movies. And Independence Day is only not here
because there's only 2 of them.
Because ID4 is my jam. I love me some ID4. You know I love ID4. So,
because let's be real, if we were doing a top 10 list of the greatest monologues in movie history, Pullman's speech would be up there.
Okay, I'm sure you don't follow Fearless Leader on Twitter or whatever social media you have these days. Some obnoxious asshat photoshopped current POTUS's head and voice over Pullman's speech.
That's hilarious. I'm gonna have to look that up.
And like superimpose like other current people's heads over the character. I'm like, you almost ruined this movie for me. I will find you and I will kill you. Oh, I was so mad, Jay. All right. Also with Jurassic Park, keep in mind, the books are the shit. Especially the first one. Michael Crichton, you know, I think he passed away. May he rest in peace if he did. Just solid outing. And when you think about the fact that there was litigation between the transformation between book and movie, it's like the book was that much better, if you can believe it. So it was really, really well written, well done. Speaking of books transitioning to movies, number 8 is a franchise that has endured since our parents were chittens. 007, James Bond. Now, do not sit here and throw, really, Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton? Yeah, even those guys. They're all great. They're all great in their own way. They all have their own Bond moments. They're all, you know, each individual Bond movie has its own, like, iconography Bond moment. Yes, Sean Connery is original. Yes, Pierce Brosnan was, quote-unquote, our Bond. And yes, Daniel Craig is kicking ass now. but every single one of those guys had their moment in the sun as 007. And honestly, to this day, my favorite non-wrestling N64 game is GoldenEye. To this day, GoldenEye kicks serious major fucking ass. And at time, to this day, I don't like guns. You know this. I do not like guns. I don't like any sort of weapon violence whatsoever, unless it's a butcher knife and it's got held by a guy in a big white mask that looks like Captain Kirk. That's okay. But gun violence, not a fan.
Yeah.
This game is awesome, and having not seen the movie beforehand, spoiler alert, folks, by the way, when James's partner ends up dying in the early part of the game and then find out he's actually a heel, they do a heel turn on him, I had the gun in my hand going, motherfucker! I was like almost like Hans turning heel in Frozen, ready to kick the TV in. I was like, son of a bitch! So, just epic storytelling. James Bond and his creators cannot be undersold enough. Just an entire series, and it's still being produced today.
Yeah.
So,
like you just mentioned back when you were talking about Mike Myers and Austin Powers, and how those movies were geared towards, the horny teenagers that wanted to be like Austin. They were just as geared for the adults that grew up with the Bonds, because those were total Bond parodies.
Oh yeah, exactly. Especially Dr. Evil and Goldmember.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you another point you touched on that I think is fantastic that I want to piggyback on is how you touched on how each Bond had their own style to them, their own what they brought to the table. It's very much like the long-standing argument about the Joker.
Yes.
Cesar Romero was the clown prince, Freaking Heath Ledger was the anarchist.
Jack was the gangster.
Yeah, Jack the gangster, You got Cameron Monaghan on Gotham, which, someday maybe you'll actually watch that shit. Brings everything together at once. Each person that does the Joker has their own, because you can't copy.
No.
You don't want to just be a carbon copy. So you got to bring your own little style, and it's the same thing with all the Bonds.
Yeah, and you and I together shat on Jared Leto quite a bit. I watched Suicide Squad. When they label him as the psychotic version of the Joker, he did a really good job. He really did.
Yeah, he did. I give Jared Leto more credit than most in his Joker.
Right.
I wish I could see what was left on the cutting room floor.
Right.
Because from what I understand, there was a lot more shot with him, but it would have taken away from the Suicide Squad part of the movie,
right?
And more of a Joker movie,
right?
I'd love to see that footage.
Yeah,
because I think it would have helped people's opinions.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, even as late as it came in the game, people were still so on the Ledger teat when it came to the Joker. Even with Cameron, starting to come in his own on Gotham, they were still sucking hard on that Ledger nipple, and they refused to let Leto be the Joker. And then shit. And then, Phoenix comes along, and they're praising him like he's the second coming. It's like, dude, how can you be there and be the dude? That's fucking hypocritical. So I wasn't a fan of. Looking back now, yeah, you and I both spent plenty of time shitting on Jared Leto's choice, the choice of him being. But I look back, it's like we were kind of dicks. All right, back to my list. Speaking of the DC universe, Superman. Now, you and I have gone back and forth in the last 15 years about the Boy Scout versus the Bat, and you'll be surprised at the fact that the Bat is coming later for me. Let me say that for the record. But Superman was a comic hero. He was a television hero. He was a movie hero. He was a video game hero. He is the quintessential superhero, hence the name Superman. Clark Kent, Superman, has endured since 30, whatever the hell, I forget what it is, 37, I think, or something like that. And he's been able to Chris Jericho / Madonna himself and be reinvented so many times and reestablished, rebranded, rebooked, whatever you want to call it, that he's been able to endure. I can very easily, Christopher Reeve was an amazing Superman Clark Kent. Dean Cain, when we were kids growing up, was our television Superman. George Reeves for our parents, the animated series is nothing that sees that at all whatsoever during the whole DC animated era where Batman was, becoming a thing, and then, you've got Henry Cavill, who, unfortunately stepped into a shitstorm with Man of Steel because that is a long goddamn movie. And it definitely, it drags. And I know it drags because I was on a train from Bakersfield to Merced, and I just finished the damn movie when I pulled into the station. So it's long, but much like you've tried to tell me with Gotham, once you get into the meat and taters of the story, boom, off you go. So it's really well done. Man of Steel takes a long damn time to get there, though. Like, longer than I think Gotham is taking me now, even as I sit here 2 years later, still not watched it yet. Brandon Routh got a raw deal. I thought people shat on that way too much. I enjoyed Returns. I really did. And coming from the Superman mark compared to my Batman fandom, I shouldn't have liked Returns, and I really did. It was just very well told. I didn't like the fact that they ignored 3 and 4 if they were going with continuity. If they're going with continuity with the Reeve story, then stay continuity. Don't be pulling a Michael Myers on me and jump from 78 2018. Fuck the rest. And that, I hate when they do that shit. Bugs the hell out of me. So that hurt the movie for sure. I think not keeping the fact that we know for sure that Martha died off camera in 3, and all of a sudden there she is, but we're in the Reeve storyline, so didn't work for me. But Superman overall has endured over multiple generations. My son, who turned 12 less than a few months ago, which you and I say that, looking at each other going, our kids are in their double digits and buck. And he likes Superman. He likes Batman. He will watch the Batman TV shows with me, and that floors me, honestly. It really does. But Superman has endured, and he is Superman. There you go. So, number 6, lower than I think you want them to be, but I do love them. Part of why I love them is because I fell in love with them over our friendship, the Muppets. I knew of the Muppet Show. I knew of the Muppet movies. I even knew about Muppet Vision 3D before you and I walked in there 36 times in the span of 2 weeks. But I didn't realize how intricate of detail the entire franchise and characters were. And I've gone back over the years and watched everything that I am able to get my hands on, thanks to Disney primarily, because Disney Plus owns everything. That's why I'm wearing the stuff, because they own the world and I'm sucking up.
Most recently, when we acknowledged Jim's passing, correct?
Right. I had not watched Jim's memorial, I think, since it aired. And 30 years later, it's like, fuck. Frank Oz in that memorial alone is like worth me watching Hogan's retirement 5 times. Like, it's that much like heart wrenching, because I think the problem with Jim's memorial, it just was too goddamn soon. It was like right away. So, but the Muppet movies are awesome. Yes, even Muppets from Space, and yes, I'll throw in, it's wrestling reference, Hollywood Hogan's in it, not Hulk Hogan. Hollywood Hogan's in that movie. So
as David Arquette.
That's right. So you've got 2 world champions in that video, baby.
Yeah.
So good on the Muppets for including the world champions of the world. I appreciate that. By the way,
David Arquette would work with them. He worked with them again on It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie,
which is very underrated, and I got to see thanks to you. That was awesome shit. And by the way, shout out David Arquette. I think our running joke is going to be a Sid joke and a David Arquette shout out, because I love David Arquette. He's my boy. What's up, David? And David, just be glad you weren't the worst woman in WWE history, because that was Sid. Okay, there's the joke about Sid. We're good.
I was curious how we were going to work it into this one. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I mean, there are some serious battles in these later movies where we could throw in a bone breaking and really, really get mean with Sid, but I figured I'd be lighthearted about it here.
There we go.
But the Muppets are just, it's so funny because my mom to this day cannot stand the overall zaniness of the Muppets. Like, she'll when it was still a thing, when we would go as a family and we go to DCA and I'd, wander over there to Hollywood and want to go, she just, I'll meet you outside. She's just, she can't. The Muppets are a lot if you don't handle a lot, and the Muppets are a lot, even in that short little snippet of the show. But they are wonderful. They are enduring, and Kermit the Frog, Kermit the Frog is one of those characters where he's so pure. Like, he's what I want my kid to grow up listening to and educating from, right? Like, we talked about it during the watch along a few weeks ago. Him going off on Piggy on the episode of the Muppet Show, like, I was like, why is Kermit the Frog ranting? Why is this a thing? Because Kermit doesn't do that. It was fucking weird. Kermit is the most lighthearted, genuine soul, and his soul is literally a hand up his ass. But be it Jim, be it Steve, be it whoever, that character is the quintessential non-Disney Disney character. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Totally get what you're saying there, yeah.
So, number 5.
They're going to be on my list. I will touch a little bit more on them when I get to there.
Oh, well, I would expect them to be at the top of your list, if not damn close to it. So, number 5. Yeah, Batman. Before I really got into Superman or other superheroes or other hero characters, mass heroes, whatever you want to call it, I grew up on reruns on Channel 11, Fox 11 out here, of the 1960s Batman. So in a time where, you're young and impressionable, you see these over-the-top 60s-esque, full-blown, celluloid. Looking back, it's like, if you really analyze it, it's crap. But, like, it's so good. Like, it's so funny. It's entertaining. It adds so much to the Batman lore when you really think about the overall spec of things. And then within a few years of me watching the Batman TV series, boom, Tim Burton changes everything. Everything. And yes, there are some tragic points in the Batman movie saga. There is no question about it. And I don't even need to mention, a Austrian accent in a bright blue suit so you guys know who I'm talking about. That is arguably the single biggest disappointment in movie franchise history. I will die on that fucking hill, okay? But people crap on Batman Forever, and I hit them in the head of shovel they're using to shovel that crap. Because Batman Forever is arguably the best of the three, in certain points. Now, I will, Batman Returns, for me, is my favorite of the three, looking back all these years later. Batman Returns is not only a Batman movie, which makes it awesome, it's not only a Tim Burton movie, which Tim Burton movies, again, much like we talked about last week, or whatever show we did with the King of the Ring stuff, Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect matches, I can watch Tim Burton movies all day and not get bored, because there's always something, right? Batman Returns is a Christmas movie. I watch Batman Returns during my Christmas binge every single year. And I love it. And is it dark and twisted? Oh, yeah. Is it a Tim Burton dark and twisted? Oh, yes. But Bruce's arc, Selina's arc, Oswald's arc, and I dare say even Max Shrek's, arc, and Max Shrek's name alone is just an awesome nod to horror movie history. I love the shit out of Burton for doing that. I thought the from what I remember, they changed the mayor character because the mayor from '89 had gotten ill or whatever. But the '92 mayor was a little bitch. I couldn't stand him. He bugged. I love Pat Hingle, of course, Commissioner Gordon. Only one of the two that survived all four of the Burton Schumacher verse. And Michael Goff, of course, is amazing. Guy's named Michael playing Alfred. You can't go wrong, I guess. And then of course the Dark Knight trilogy. It's easy to say that had Disney not come along a few years later and created this wonderful cinematic universe, if you will, that the Dark Knight trilogy would be the single greatest series of movies in superhero history. So, they all touch hearts in different ways. They touch on that little emotional button trigger, if you will, at different points. So, Batman, I think, I'm curious where they're going to go with Pattinson. I'm definitely curious because you and I, sir, had to attempt to endure Pattinson's greatest role, if you want to call it a great role. His most prolific role, let's just be honest.
It's definitely his most well-known role.
Right, and I am having a hard time picturing him in the three-piece suit and in the cowl and cape. But again, we'll see how it plays out. People say the same thing about Ben Affleck, and I think Ben did a much better job than people give him credit for.
I agree.
So
people also said the same thing about Keaton, because
right.
At the time he was known mainly as a comedic actor.
Right.
Mr. Mom, Beetlejuice.
Right.
People didn't know if he could handle something as dark and brooding as Batman.
Right.
And I'll be damned if he didn't fucking kill it.
Yeah, If there wasn't a guy named Christian Bale coming out of American Psycho doing the Batman movies, Michael Keaton was my favorite Batman to this day. So that's just how I feel. I know you have your Adam West and your Val Kilmer, and you've got the Val Kilmer meetup, so you've got the personal touch. So I get that. But for me, Keaton was my Batman.
Is still my favorite Batman, in all honesty, because I feel he's the one actor who balanced Bruce and the Bat the best.
You said Keaton was or Val was? Oh, Keaton, yeah. Keaton.
Val was an amazing Bruce.
Yes.
He was a horrible Batman.
Yeah. I agree.
I love that movie to death, and as you said, it is my favorite of the series.
Right.
But he's a great Bruce and a horrible Batman.
Yeah, I have said for many years that if George Clooney had just been Batman and not try to talk like Bruce as Batman, I'd be okay with it, right? If Val Kilmer had done a little bit less vulnerable Batman, then I'm good with him. Michael Keaton played vulnerable as motherfucker Bruce, and then when the cowl and cape went on, like, not fuck you, I'm gonna kick your ass, Batman. He switch on. The red light goes on, you go through the curtain, you become your character. Wrestling much. So,
Christian Bale's voice kills it for me.
Yeah. But you know what? If it weren't for Christian Bale's voice, we wouldn't have Rick Ellis Gold in the back of our minds. Look it up, folks. One-on-one Jeff Meacham on the archives. Swear to me! Okay. Number 4. I know you're not going to have him on the list, and I'm just going to throw it out there. He's over your right shoulder. Harry Potter. Again, I discovered the books first, so I am grossly biased because I was fully prepared to shit all over the movies because the movies are never as good as the books, and I was grossly mistaken. These 8 movies, these 7 books are the reason I got back into fantasy fandom. Yes, I still like Star Trek and I like Star Wars, and that was more of the sci-fi area. The Harry Potter books and movies. Harry Potter books, first of all, brought me back into reading at a time where I was reading wrestling magazines and nothing else if I could help it. And as a result, my English grades in junior year were to the point where if I didn't buckle my happy ass down in 2000, 2001, I'd still be in high school now. So let's just be real. But having a 12th grade English teacher in a science fiction class bust out that broken down, copy of Harry Potter first edition and start reading it to me out loud, doing the voices, doing the little nuance of the character. And when the movie came out the following fall, after I graduated, at a time where I was still partially concussed and not really doing a hell of a whole lot, my parents went on vacation without me because I wasn't able to travel. I needed to have something to do. So I went to our theater, which had the option of visual and hearing sensory options to see a movie. And as optioned out as it was, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone took my breath away. Because I'd read the first book, and it was like, dude, they like drilled into J.K. Rowling's skull and projected the image. This is fucking amazing. And yes, each movie subsequently took out less and less of the story to fit into a 2.5 hour window. But if you get DVD Blu-rays and watch the bonus stuff, it all comes together in that respect. The storytelling of this saga matches anything I've ever seen, ever. Amazing material. So, and again, I know I'm almost alone in that group on the Casa front, and I own that. That's fine. But it's one of those things where I don't know where my love for reading would be in 2020 if not for Harry Potter in 2000. So
fair enough. My dad was really into the Potter movies. I don't know if he read all the books,
right?
But I know he really enjoyed the movies, as did Mikey,
right?
Stat Boy.
Yep.
The rest of the Casa front, I can't really speak on. No idea. I know Natalie has been trying to keep up with and read the books, which I feel is a little too big for her age at this point.
Okay.
But I know she's trying, and God bless her for that.
Right. And yeah, I mean, her and Uncle Rob have, and I have, made it clear to her that, much like Uncle Jeff with Gotham, once you get past the first two chapters, the first two books, it's gravy, brother. Because there's the thing with 1 and 2 of Harry Potter is there's so much exposition. They're having to tell you so much shit. Like, Gotham is the same way. Like, they're trying to make sure you know exactly where you are. And then when they pull that third season trigger, it's like, okay, now that you know, here we go. So, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban really is the here we go of the series. And I feel the movie is the same way. So, I know you mentioned you were having trouble with the first couple of movies and you really didn't go on from there. So, let me check something real quick here because I wanted to see. Bear with me here. Nope, I don't know where it is. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh wait, yes I do. Okay, nope, that's not it. There it is. Okay, so yeah, you know what? I can go ahead and say it. Okay, I don't know if I told you when I made the order, but I know that Natalie was reading the books and is still reading the books as we speak, as she's going on here. So I also realized after 5 months of the year that she turned 11 this year.
Yeah.
So, which again, she's 11, mine's 12, and we're old.
Than others, but yes.
Well, yeah. Well, I wasn't gonna go there. I was gonna be fucker. I remembered that in the stories, when you turn 11, you get your letter from Hogwarts. I found a site that does it. So, and since the school transition is happening, Natalie got her Hogwarts letter.
Cool.
So, if you're watching this before it's taped, Natalie, stop. Never mind. Teresa, back it up and don't let her see it. Okay. So yeah, Harry Potter, and I did that for her because my kid can't stand the Potters. Like he's not even on the books. He loves the movies, but your ex, my sister, did it right and says you can watch the movies after you read the book. Brilliant booking on Teresa's part there. So, all right, here we go. Back to my thing. There it is. All right, number 3. Number 3 will surprise you because it took me a while to get it done, but I got it done, finally. The MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I so did not want to like these. I didn't want to like these because I'm a DC guy through and through. I love me my Batman and my Superman and all that. But then it's like, yeah, but Spidey and Hulk and Iron Man and everybody else, like, let's give it a shot. And yes, it is Lord of the Rings lengthwise, but so much better story-wise. My God. And again, I love the fact that people are passionate about the Hobbits and Lord of the Rings, and that's wonderful. But give me a 27 movie marathon over the 18 hours of Hobbit any day. I swear to God. I'm telling you. You know, I was perfectly willing to shell out the money if I'd had it and go to the El Capitan and do the damn thing when Endgame came out. And nobody would go with me because
that's so bad too.
Right.
But I knew about it.
Yeah.
And when they finally put the link on sale, I was at work. And when I finally got to click the link, it was sold out.
Sold out. Yeah, exactly. It's like I was perfectly willing to bring the air mattress from Teresa's and just camp my happy ass out. I didn't give a shit because I wanted to be part of the experience, right? I wanted to be part of that, much like I wanted to be part of the Skywalker saga when they did El Capitan because, again, you know, I didn't really discover the movies in-depth hardcore until 97 and the re-releases, but it's just to be part of it. Like, part of the, you know, I posted it when
I could be part of that world.
Right. You know, I posted it when I saw Endgame with Dylan in the theaters. You know, I quoted Spike from Buffy. I want to see how it ends. But, you know, I hadn't seen the previous, whatever it was, 20-something, you know, so, you know, I wanted to just immerse myself and be so completely in the Marvel moment when I did it that I would love it even more. But you know what? Honestly, once I was able to get my hands on the Incredible Hulk, because God, is that a bitch to find for outside of Disney. Golly, stupid Universal bullshit. Once I got my hands on it, it's like, all right, you know what? Fuck it. Sat in front of a TV and just did it. And, you know, there were times where my parents would, like, peek their head through the curtain, make sure I wasn't Jack Nicholson style, frozen in the seat, you know, like dead from, you know, just frostbite and being, you know, crazy. But I did it, and I was thoroughly impressed and thoroughly pissed for not having done it sooner. And it's easily, yes, it's Disney. Yes, it's Disneyed. You know what I mean? But it's still the best comprehensive, in-depth superhero story that anybody has ever done. And the fact that they tied every single one of them together just makes it that much more awesome. Yes, the Batman Schumacher universe, Burton ties in together loosely, but they very thinly veil, you know, the fact that, you know, Jack Nicholson was the Joker that killed Bruce's parents in Forever, and they kind of gloss over that fact in Forever, right? And then Batman and Robin made just like, it's a fucking train wreck. You know, the Dark Knight trilogy ties together. That I did like. But this MCU is, you know, it's proper casting, proper storytelling, enough use of graphic arts without making your brain explode, right? Just awesome shit. Incredible shit. Number 2. You're going to be surprised that it's not, that I have something else, number 1. Well, actually, you won't be surprised I have number 1. But my number 2 is Star Wars. Again, I didn't discover the ways of the Force theatrically until 97 because all I had was those gross-looking clamshells that Fox CBS put out in the 80s. But once I got into the theaters and saw these things on an epic scope, they took my breath away. They really did. Every single one of them. Yes, even Attack of the Clones, people. It just, again, we went over Star Wars in depth. We went balls deep when we premiered the show. So I don't have to go too much into it, but it is the greatest purely theatrical saga in film history, right? And then you've got the TV shows and the other stuff with it that just is icing on that cake. Number one is something that I aspire to this day when I watch television, when I educate my son, when I talk about the world that we all want to live in and wish we all could live in. I imagine the utopia that Gene Roddenberry created in 1964 with Star Trek. Okay? Star Trek let us believe that there is a future where humanity comes together, where there is no war, where there is no poverty, where there is no starvation, where there is no, obnoxiously large crime or whatever on Earth, where Earth has ventured out into the universe and, made peace with everybody. And within 100 years of the first series we see, the next series, our most hated enemy is our ally. And within another 20 years, our other enemy is our ally. And then we have this amazing enemy that, really has no rhyme, no reason. They're just purely driven by conquest, and they're robotic, and they have no soul. And then, oh wait, now they do have a soul because it just the shit just tugs at your heart and your soul. It's amazing, amazing storytelling, and I cannot emphasize enough that the right people were casting the right roles at the right time for each series, each movie, each everything. There is something to be found right with every single entry. Yes, even the odd Star Trek movies, because those are shit, let's be honest, but the TV series are amazing. Yes, even Enterprise. I'm sorry, Enterprise is what it is, and I will still forever hate Paramount for retconning the entire goddamn universe. But Star Trek is just... I will sit here just, today. I'm going to watch today. Oh, CBS All Access, Star Trek. There we go. Boom. I'll throw on Episode Next Generation, and I'm good for an hour. So Star Trek was my childhood. And honestly, Star Trek sits right here forever because I will never forget. And you're older than me, so you have more memory than I do of this. In 1986, when the Challenger exploded, right? I was sitting on my mother's bedroom bed with her, as we always did, watching the liftoffs from Cape Canaveral. And when the Challenger disaster happened, and I was like, ooh-ah, but concerned, I looked up and saw my mother's face of anguish and sorrow and didn't understand why at 3 years old. I was like, what the fucking? I really was. Star Trek 4 dedicated the movie to the Challenger survivor, the Challenger crew. And that just, to this day, it makes me cry. Star Trek always finds a way to trigger something from the past, much like wrestling does for me. So this is going to sound very, very monumental for my fans of the last 18 years, but you can't see my hands because it's stupid picture. But Star Trek and wrestling are right here together, even above Disney, honestly. So, there you go.
All right. Wow. Very good list. Couple things I was surprised about. We agreed on a few of them. We even agreed on the placement of one of them.
Okay.
So we will now get into my list as the pseudo-host of this one.
Right.
Number 10 for me might come off as an odd choice, but with 4 movies and a TV series to its credit, I felt like it definitely deserved a ranking on its list, and especially since the movies seemed to get better as the series went on, whereas most movies it's like, you got the first one and then meh. Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
I mean, because don't get me wrong, the first one with just Gibson and Glover, and I believe Busey is the villain, amazing. But then you go to 2 and you add Pesci. Then you go to 3 and you add Rene Russo. Then you go to 4 and you add Chris Rock. And Jet Li is the villain. And the chemistry between Rock and Pesci. Like, you already had the Glover Gibson chemistry. Well, now you've got this chemistry over here too.
Yep.
Loved those movies. Didn't really watch the TV show, but loved the movies. Even to the point where when they weren't making Lethal Weapon movies, they still made jokes about it, because I will remember to this day having never seen a Lethal Weapon movie at the time.
Right.
Sitting in the theaters and watching Maverick.
Yep.
When the bank robbers robbed the bank and Mel Gibson as Maverick pulls down the bandana on the leader of the gang, and it's Glover. And they look at each other and they're like, nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Like, even having never seen a movie at that point, I got the joke.
Right.
I understood the I was Cap. I understand that reference. You know. So the fact that they could do that,
MC
then you
reference
had
one?
the National
Yeah,
Lampoon. Then you had the National Lampoon Loaded Weapon parody with
Right.
Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson. You can't get much better.
Right. Oh, by the way, but before you keep going, when we get to Star Wars, I want to ask you if you know something about Mr. Jackson. So go ahead.
Right. Number 9 on my list, I had to throw on the list. Other people may be surprised. Other people may not think about it at first when it comes to franchises, but it's definitely one that's near and dear to my heart. The Jay and Silent Bob movies. The View-esque universe, as it were. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob the Reboot, and even Clerks the Animated Series. So you cover all the bases there. You've got movies, you've got an animated cartoon, you've got sequels within the franchise, all connected by these two wandering stoners that manage to place themselves in intricate parts of every single story so that it all comes together.
Yeah, it's very subtle, right, in its placement, but if you know, you know.
Yeah. I mean, some movies it's more obvious because they're more of a main focus, like Mallrats, like Dogma, like Strike Back.
Yeah.
Other movies like Chasing Amy, they're just a cameo. They pop in, have a scene, and they leave.
Yep.
But it's just enough to tie this to that.
Exactly.
Before Marvel had a shared universe, there was the View-esque universe.
Exactly.
Number 8. As of this filming, by my recollection, there are 8 movies and a spin-off for a total of 9. The Fast and the Furious.
Yes. With number 10 currently in limbo because of the Rona.
Yeah. Another great franchise. And I was of the mindset after the first one that they didn't need to do no mo.
Right.
Then they did the second one, and Vin Diesel wasn't in it. And I was like, they don't need to do no mo.
And
And
we were wrong.
Here we are, 9 movies total later, and they're still cranking out mo.
It just won't stop no mo.
But then you go back and you rewatch them, and you get the story that they're telling, because unfortunately they were released out of order.
Right.
You know, the third one is like the 6th one or something in reality, you know. So you watch all these movies now in the chronological storyline order, and everything makes so much more sense.
Right.
And kudos on especially Vin Diesel and, until he passed, Paul Walker, for keeping the story going.
Right.
Because
and kudos to them for finding a way to keep on without Paul, too. That shit was awesome. So
it's like a good wrestling angle. You don't see where it's going until all the pieces are there. and then you can go back and rewatch everything, and you're like, there's that, there's that, there's that.
Yep. Honestly, what really as far as wrestling storylines that do that, the thing that really makes that work for me, Hunter's babyface turn in 2000, and I'm like, oh wait, just kidding, with Austin. Because it was right there, obviously in front of us, and we never saw it coming. Fucking epic. So, anyway. Oh, by the way, as far as a Lethal Weapon, do you remember when I got Lethal Weapon for the first time, as far as seeing the DVDs?
No.
Your folks. It was a gift when we made one of our North Hill or West Hills excursions.
Ah.
So, thanks to them, I had the series.
Number 7 on my list is one I'm kind of surprised didn't pop up on yours.
Okay.
Toy Story.
And there's my Roddy Piper moment. I forgot it's 4. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's my Piper
4
moment right
movies,
there. Yeah.
Plus
yeah.
the shorts.
Yeah.
And to this day, even though I have watched 4 multiple times, even got to see it at the El Camp at a preview screening.
Oh, nice.
Before it was theatrically officially released.
Right.
I still don't think it needs to exist.
I would agree.
I take nothing. I hold no ill about it being in the franchise because
Right.
it is a great movie.
Yes.
But Part 3 ended so beautifully.
Yep.
With Andy going to Bonnie, giving her the toys, having that last play with them, Woody waving goodbye.
Easy, brother, easy.
There did not need to be a 4th one. Any other Bonnie adventures that they wanted to do could very easily have just been little 5-minute shorts that they throw in before, like, the other Pixar movies. But the one thing that I do love about Part 4 is Gabby Gabby.
Yes.
Because while you think the entire time that she is just a Lotso-esque villain with foul intentions on her mind,
Yep.
really deep down at the end of all of it has a heart of gold. She just wants the life Woody had.
Yep.
What is wrong with that? Her motive may be bad, but she just wants the life Woody has.
Yep.
And when she gets it at the end of the movie, you get that warm fuzzy in your heart.
Yeah, and honestly, like,
to have that life.
Yeah. I think that I liked 4's story arc only because of what they did with Gabby, and then Woody finally realizing that he didn't need to be head toy anymore. Like, he needed to be, doing his own thing. I would have argued that would have been a great way to do 3, but I also get that 3 needed to be about Andy leaving small things behind, right? And Woody needed to be felt loved again the way that he had always felt loved prior to 1. Because even though he accepted Buzz and he and Buzz became bosom buddies and everything, he still had the entire saga arc of, I'm no longer the head cheese in town. Because remember, 2, he got stolen and felt underappreciated so much that he damn near was in the box ready to go to Japan, right? He was almost out the door. And then he thought, maybe not. He was too scared to admit he was too scared to think about what would happen. And sure as shit, he goes back to Andy, and within a few years, the thing happened that happened. Ended up in a goddamn box. So, fucker's clairvoyant, number 1. Number 2, yeah, I liked that they gave Woody his definitive, like, okay, here's my ending. But I do agree with you that the parting shot and Woody saying so long, partner, which I'm welling up in tears right fucking now as I'm saying it. I hate you, Jay! By the way, Off subject, Heroes is the best TV show you've ever introduced to me, and I hate you for everything. So there you go. But yeah, the end of 3 is just beautifully brutal. And that's where it needed to be done.
Yeah.
And also, 3 has the best villain of the 3. Because as a toy who sat up here for the longest time, and as a, character, I love me some Lotso. But, much like the Han story in Frozen, I was ready to kick and break things when Lotso revealed his true side. It was like, damn, Ned Beatty, why I gotta be a dick foe? So, it's amazing stuff. So, 3 should have been it, but I can give 4 a pass because it is damn good.
Number 6. Another one I'm surprised wasn't on your list.
Okay.
5 movies deep and a theme park attraction.
Uh-oh.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
It was on. It almost made the cut. It almost did. I actually was torn between James Bond and Pirates, and Jade's gonna hate me for choosing James Bond, but oh well. But Pirates is amazing.
Part 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Part 5 redeemed itself to me.
Definitely.
Especially with, the inclusion of Sir Paul McCartney.
Because that should be a thing in everything.
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah.
If you can't get Keith Richards, by God, get Paul McCartney.
Or at least Ringo. One of the two.
But the Pirates saga, specifically the original trilogy,
yes,
I feel was so well told.
Yep.
So many nods to the attraction which inspired it.
Yep.
Johnny Depp arguably at his best.
Yeah.
The only role of his that I can think of that might go ahead of Jack Sparrow for me is Edward Scissorhands.
Well,
he's so vulnerable and lovable in that movie.
Yep.
And Anthony Michael Hall, the essential 80s babyface, is the ultimate prick in that movie.
This is a true story. I hope to God he gets just gutted in Halloween Kills, for the record.
Oh, I like Anthony.
I do too, but it'll be
He's a nice guy.
Dude, can you imagine the pop the theater will have? Because a lot of people hate Anthony. Like, they legit hate that motherfucker, right? Can you imagine the pop in the theater when Michael just shanked his ass? Oh my God.
I love me some AMH.
I do too. I love Anthony to death. I met the guy. He's a great guy, but people tend to hate his ass. So, anyway, sorry.
But yeah, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, I feel definitely is the top of my bottom of the list.
Okay.
Number 5. I'm not surprised you excluded this because a lot of people don't really think of it as a franchise. But the Universal Monsters.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, a lot of them are series in of themselves and aren't really intertwined with each other as the Views universe or the MCU or stuff like that is.
Right.
But there were quite a few moments where those characters did come together. The first obvious one being Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, the sequel to the original Wolfman, which that's like 5 movies into the Frankenstein saga.
Right.
You'd already had Frank, Bride, Son, and I think one other before you got to Meets the Wolfman with him.
Yeah, wasn't Abbott
Ghost
Costello
Stuff,
before?
I think.
Oh, Ghost Stuff. Yeah, it's Ghost Stuff. Yeah.
And then you had House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, which brought some of the characters together.
Yeah.
You had Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, which, although a comedy, still brought Frank, Dracula, and the Wolfman all together, and was only the second time that Bela Lugosi played Dracula.
Right.
He was only ever Dracula in the original and meets Frankenstein.
Yep.
Although he played a vampire quite a few times, and everyone always thinks when they see Lugosi vampire, they think Dracula.
Oh, nope.
He only played Dracula twice.
Yeah, and didn't he play one of the other monsters at one point too?
Yeah, he was the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he played Frank. Yeah.
In Meets the Wolfman, I believe, because there's a storyline in son and ghost of where his character's brain is transferred into the body
Oh shit.
of the monster.
Got it.
So for the next movie, he was the monster because his brain is in that body.
Wow.
I want to say it is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman that has Bela Lugosi as the monster.
Yeah.
However, Chaney, of course, the only one to play the Frankenstein monster in Ghost, Dracula as Count Alucard in Son of Dracula, the only Wolfman, and he was the Mummy after Karloff's original movie.
And that's why Lon Chaney is the shit.
And then let's not forget the creature from the Black Lagoon either. A lot of people sleep on him, so those 5 main male monsters, Frank, Drac, Wolfie, Mummy, Creature, plus the Bride of Frankenstein. The Universal Monsters franchises from the 30s to 50s, I want to say 51, was Costello Meets Frankenstein.
Right. And then, people sleep on the Claude Rains Phantom. That was a great Phantom movie. I mean, you have Lon Chaney. Let's just, for a minute there. But, you got Claude Rains as the Phantom. You've got the Claude Rains Invisible Man movies, which are also really freaking good. So what's so fun? It's so funny you bring that up, and I know I didn't mention it. I discovered those movies. There was a series of, not picture books, because that's too simplistic a word, but I remember they were bright orange book covers. They're like about this thick in the school library.
I remember.
That's how I discovered those.
I meet the Wolfman one religiously.
Yeah, I discovered the Universal Monsters through those, and then, years later meeting you, I met freaking everyone's in the house. So here we go, DVD binge time. But yeah, they are grossly understated, and for somebody that went to Universal as a kid, as much as I did, I don't give the monsters near enough love.
A lot of people don't, because when you think of modern horror, the Universal monsters come off as hokey.
Yeah.
But had it not been for those, dare I say that even going to like Norman Bates would not exist.
No.
Nor would Freddy, Jason, Michael, Pennywise, Jigsaw, etc., etc.
Yep. I mean, because
let's not forget that Claude Rains also played Lawrence Talbot's father in the original Wolfman.
Right. Yeah. There is a serious amount of incest going on in those Universal movies, and that's okay. Keep in mind, Alfred Hitchcock himself has said that Psycho was influenced by Universal's Monster series, and subsequently, John Carpenter, Wes Craven, all those guys have said that they were influenced by Psycho. So, if you go biblically, Genesis, this begot this and this begot that. So,
in the beginning, there was.
Yeah, in the beginning, there was Lon Chaney in that horrible mask. There you go. That's it. And off we went.
See, but that's the thing. That wasn't a mask. That was makeup.
Makeup. Sorry. Yeah.
That just furthers my point. When we talk about CGI and stuff.
Yeah.
All of those monsters were makeup.
Yeah.
Realistic effects, so you could see facial reaction.
Yep.
When Lon Chaney Jr. has the bear trap on his leg in The Wolfman, you can see the physical pain on his face through his acting because it's not a computer monster.
No, exactly. Yeah, you can see Larry Talbot in anguishing pain behind the wolf. It's amazing. So, which is why, you and I were both, you more so because of how Wolfie is to you, were so just like, with the remake.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man.
And let's just not forget, what was the first horror movie that young Dylan was privy to watch?
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Right. Well, Frankenstein was the first one that I knew he was allowed to watch. How about that?
And he ate that up.
He did. He really, as young as he was, and I got massive shit for it afterwards, but, he really enjoyed that. Now, there was some horror movies that weren't Universal that he was privy to later that was kind of like, but
yeah, but
see, the thing is, Frankenstein from 1931 was, by 2013 standards, or 12 standards, tame as, Mary Poppins, pretty much. Seriously, it's,
It was the equivalent of a Disney movie.
Right.
Which is why I knew that if he was going to watch anything,
Right.
that would be the place to start.
Yeah, and I think Frankenstein's honestly less scary than the Wolfman at that point. So Frankenstein's the way to go. If you're out there in TV land or YouTube land or wherever if you're on Anchor, thank you for listening on Anchor. I appreciate the money. If you're introducing your youngins to horror movies and you feel that's appropriate, Universal Monsters is the way to go.
Yeah. And I remember to this day, I will always remember, I sat the boy down because I wanted to make sure he understood.
Yep.
And I told him, when you watch this movie, think of the Frankenstein monster as you.
Yep.
He is a child. He has been born from all these other body parts.
Yep.
He is learning what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in the world, just like you are.
Exactly.
Which is why when little Maria is throwing the flowers into the water with him, and they're giggling and they float, he thinks he can throw her in the water and she'll float. We all float. Had to.
I know you did.
But she doesn't, and he doesn't understand why. And I remember laying that out to him because I thought that would be the one part that freaked him out the most.
Yeah.
Was throwing the little girl in the lake and her drowning.
Yeah, definitely.
And he watched it. He didn't freak out because he had that, disclaimer, which again, parents, give your kids the disclaimer, to the point where for at least a week or two, he was asking to watch that movie every day.
Yep. Yeah, there's only two, at this point now, two things horror-wise that have really shook him up. One was the visit to Howling Horror Nights, and he spent the week in bed with me afterwards because people made poor choices. The other thing was he hasn't seen them yet, but he saw the box cover for Chucky, the Chucky set. He can't be around my buddy doll to this day because, yeah.
That was kind of the point, and that whole series murdered my buddy. But,
Yeah, but you know what?
That's for another list. As
right.
much as I adore the Chucky movies, that franchise did not make my list.
And we'll get to October, and we'll get her done. Yeah. So, all right.
Number 4, The Muppets.
Yes, there you go.
Number 4 on my list. To steal a quote from the Rainbow Connection that just sums it all up for me. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing, and what do we think we might see? That line right there defines the Muppets for me. They are felt puppets with hands up their asses, and yet they generate so much love and emotion and just pull you into their souls that you can't help but love them. You mentioned about how your mom can't stand the zaniness. What a lot of people, I think, fail to realize is the Muppets weren't designed for kids.
No.
They became kids' icons because they're puppets.
And because Sesame Street. So.
But the Muppets are designed for grown-ups. Go back and rewatch some of the movies. There are some very adult jokes in there. Some not as obvious. Some smack you in the face. But there's a lot of adult humor in those movies. And you want to talk about a franchise that has endured time. 5 seasons of The Muppet Show. Muppet Movie, Caper, Manhattan, Christmas Carol, Treasure Island, Space, The Muppets, Muppets Most Wanted, just for theatrical movies.
Right.
We won't even get into the made-for-TV ones.
Right.
2 generations of Muppet babies. Muppets Tonight in the 90s, the brand new series that's going to start airing on Disney Plus here in July, Muppets Now, the 2015 reboot after the success of The Muppets and Muppets Most Wanted, which was more office-type humor.
Right.
Short-lived series.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to talk about a franchise that has endured time and managed to change itself periodically, the Muppets.
Yep. And, I'm becoming very much a softie in my old age, I'll be honest with you. But even still, there are very few instances of any media anything that the opening note, I'm chills, blubbering idiot. The Undertaker's Gong is one of them. Every time the chills, the goosebumps. But that first guitar twang before that goddamn frog starts singing that song, just every time, without fail.
Yep.
And it's, that song encapsulates everything about life. Like, someday we'll find it. Like, someday we'll find our love, our future, our dream this, our this, or, our whatever we sought in life. Materialistically, no, but in our hearts, yes. And it's like, fuck me. Damn it. It's just beautiful.
It is. Number 3 are really two separate franchises, but I lump them together because I feel they are very much yin and yang.
Okay.
Batman and Superman.
Right.
I could sit here and just ramble, feel like you did that enough over those two franchises.
Yeah. Because here we are, an hour and 20, and you're still not done, so we're going to... Marathon sessions indeed today, for those of you paying attention at home.
But, Batman and Superman, my biggest beef with those two, and I know I've gone into this with you a couple times via chat, both via Messenger and face-to-face.
Yep.
They had 30 years to do what Marvel did, and they never pulled the trigger.
Nope.
You had the Christopher Reeve Superman, who very easily could have met up with the Michael Keaton Batman in the late 80s. Never happened. You had the Keaton or Kilmer Batman, who very easily could have met up with the Dean Cain Superman. Never happened. You had the Brandon Routh Superman, who very easily could have met up with the Christian Bale Batman. Never happened. It wasn't until Iron Man and everything that followed when DC thought, oh, hey, we own a bunch of these characters. We can do this too. And decided to try and do it in 2 movies instead of looking at the blueprint that was laid out and mapping their path to the Justice League.
Yep. Now,
and
granted,
goddamn, I don't care at what point they decided to pull the trigger. Linda Carter was still fine as fuck and could have done Wonder Woman at any point.
That's right. Although Gal Gadot, I ain't mad at it though.
So, but number 3, Batman and Superman.
Yeah, I would definitely, put them together, and I only didn't with me because it's, it worked out that way. But yeah, I can see where you put them together.
Number 2.
Okay.
As our people know, we filmed this in advance. Today, the day we are filming this, actually happens to be the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Star Wars franchise.
Is number 2. Interesting. Now I'm curious.
What more can be said about Star Wars that we didn't say on the show about it, that you didn't just touch on? I mean, 9 Skywalker movies, 4 spin-off movies, Rogue One, Solo, and the 2 Ewok movies.
Yep.
A holiday special. We'll just leave that there.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
the
once
Ewok
a year.
Cartoon, the Droid cartoon, the multiple cartoons that have followed, Rebels, the Clone Wars.
Resistance. Yep.
The
Clone Wars movie.
The cameo appearances on both The Muppet Show and Sesame Street.
Yep.
The Christmas album. Yes, go look that one up, folks. You thought the holiday special was bad? Look up the Star Wars Christmas album. What do you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? Yes, that is legit the title of a track.
Do yourself a favor and a solid and get a copious amount of alcohol or something in you first, though. I'm telling you right now. Just throwing it out there now.
Do like our buddy does up in Henderson, Nevada, and roll yourself a fatty before you stuff her through that one.
I'm not touching that joke. Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, moving right along.
Number 1 on my list.
Yeah. Now, okay. Here we go.
Drum roll, please. You see the guy over my shoulder here. Iron Man, the man who started it all, the MCU.
Okay. Yeah, I should have figured that. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you kind of stretched it a little bit, said 27 movies. It's technically 22. 23 if you go my route and add the Eric Bana Hulk movie, which I still fight should be considered a part of the MCU because it's Hulk's origin story. But goddamn, the storytelling in those movies.
Yeah.
I came into it late.
Right.
I want to say I came into it right about the time of the Avengers. So I had missed the first 5 movies. Me and Mikey watched them all out of order to when we could find them at the library or whatever to get caught up.
Right.
But from the Avengers on, I believe I've seen every single one in theaters, except for the newest Spider-Man, Far From Home.
Right.
And I forget why I didn't get to go to see that one in theaters.
Probably working.
Something happened.
Hey, saw. Okay, did we see Avengers at the El Cap together, or Age of Ultron, or both?
I haven't seen any of them at the El Cap.
Really? Who was Oh, you know what? Age of Ultron was with Teresa and the gang.
I haven't seen any of them at El Cap. I wish.
Right?
But dude, the storytelling, the intertwining, so beautifully done and well executed.
Yeah. It's again, it's like me with Trek. Like you try to say it, it's just like there's just no words.
Yeah.
It's just like
for better or for worse, those actors will be forever defined by those roles.
Right. Yep.
I cannot picture anybody else as Iron Man except for Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. was Tony Stark before he got sober and came back to acting.
Right?
Let's be real. Go Google Robert Downey Jr.'s escapades in the 90s, folks. He was Tony Stark before he signed on to be Tony Stark.
Yeah. Luckily for Tony Stark and our fans, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't going into that movie as Robert Downey Jr.
The hell is his name?
Mark Ruffalo, God bless him, man. He stepped into a probable shitstorm and made, chicken shit in a chicken salad by trying to pick up the pieces of the Universal debacle. So that was awesome.
As good as Norton was as Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo just played a great Hulk. His Hulk really reminds me, going back to one of my other picks, of the Wolfman.
Yeah.
He does not want this curse inside of him. He does not want this beast. If there's any way he could kill that monster and still be Lawrence Talbot, Bruce Banner, he would do it.
Yep.
He hates that personality side of him.
Which was so funny when they...
To live with it.
Yeah. When they did what they did in Endgame, it's like, all right.
Chris Hemsworth, the poor guy... Everything else the man touches flops horribly at the box office.
Yeah.
If he is not Thor, God of Thunder, it doesn't make money.
No.
I feel for that guy.
Yeah.
Because he is going to forever have that curse. Chris Evans, our beloved Cap.
Yep.
Oh my God. You talk about getting... second chances. The man with the whipped cream bikini in Not Another Teen Movie, who became the Human Torch in the shit-tastic Fantastic Four franchise, was given the opportunity to hold that shield, and look at what became of it.
It is Chris Evans in that role that motivated Dylan to be Cap for Halloween, either last year or the year before. We still have the shield. Like, we didn't, like, put it away and, we'll sell it at a garage sale. That fucker is still in use.
I have a plastic shield in my freaking closet.
Yeah. It's,
I also have Mjolnir somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, Dylan did the superhero thing twice. Cap, and then when he did Batman with Natalie that year, that I did the pseudo Joker. That, because, that's how impactful both those characters are to our kids, which I think is freaking amazing.
And I defy anybody to sit through those 22 movies and then not cry at Endgame.
Yeah. I wonder how many 27, because 27 hours was the time of the binge through of the LCAP.
Possibly the hours, but 22 movies.
Right.
But yeah, I defy someone to watch those movies and then not cry at any point during Endgame.
Yeah.
I was a wreck multiple times during that movie.
Yeah, everybody was warning me, dude, have tissues like it in 5 minutes. I'm like, no way. 5 minutes later, dude, okay, spoiler alert. Dude, Hawkeye's family. Like, I was like, can we go home? I'm done now. Can we go? I couldn't. Oh my god! And then it just went on, man.
Can you believe that's Velma from Scooby-Doo?
I knew who that was. That's been bugging me for 2 years. I never bothered to look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's
from
so
the
funny is
Scooby-Doo movies with Matthew Lillard and Freddie Prinze and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I always mistake her for Amy Acker from Buffy, the Buffy Angel. She played Fred. I always mistake the girl that played Velma for Amy Acker. Like, I don't know why, but I do. It drives my friends crazy who love Buffy. It drives them crazy. But yeah.
I was a wreck.
Yeah.
Multiple times in that movie. And ironically, I wasn't a wreck for Stan's cameo, even though I knew that was going to be his last.
Right.
And I wasn't a wreck when Tony died.
See, I was for that. That one wrecked me completely.
I was a wreck for so many other spots, though. Yeah. Like Tony's demise, I felt more of a sense of relief, as morbid as that may sound, because he finally proved to Cap that he was willing to take that one for the team.
Right.
Where Cap never thought he had it in him to make that sacrifice.
Right.
As soon as he snapped his fingers, he made that sacrifice. No hesitation, no second guessing his decision. He even had a fucking hologram already ready, knowing he was probably going to die.
Which, again, it's, when you look back at it, when you're in the moment in theater, you're like, but it's like I said, there wasn't some Tony Stark snarky, like, moment of indecision. It was like, nope, good. And he knew. It was good. Yeah. I kind of was like a little about Cap's ultimate fate. Like, I get that he wanted to be with Penny, and I love that. Yeah. But I just it almost felt like they left a lot of the story kind of out there when he gave the shield to Don Cheadle. It's like, okay.
You mean Anthony Mackie?
And sorry, and
Don Cheadle is War Machine. Anthony Mackie's Falcon.
They're all the same, and I'm sorry for all of you out there for making that. Jeez, whatever. I'm tired.
When he gave the shield to Papa Doc.
Papa Doc, there you go. Thank you. That's it. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. God, I'm going to hell.
But see, what you have to realize is the end of that movie is the two endings that you never saw coming.
Okay.
You never thought Tony was going to make the ultimate sacrifice. He did. Right. He laid down his life for the team.
Right.
You never thought Cap was going to settle down and live a normal homebody domestic life.
True.
because the one person he wanted to spend that time with
was back there. Yeah, yeah.
So having the opportunity to return the Infinity Stones, he had the opportunity to live that life.
Makes sense. Well, now that you all have sat here for 92 minutes, I love you for that, by the way. Thank you for that. And for the King of the Ring show, also 90 minutes. And you guys, I love you all to pieces. You guys are the best ever.
Well, you know what? People wanted us back so goddamn bad, they can deal with us being a little bit long-winded about the stuff we're passionate about.
That's right. Because you know what? Every other Friday, I'm just host guy. I sit there and read shit I'm handed to. You know, whatever. This is where I get to be my creative person here. So damn it, I'm going with it. But what do you guys think out there in the Meachamverse? Do you guys agree with our list? Do you think we should have put something somewhere else? Do you think we grossly underrated things and overrated things? And we're missing something so much that we should be put on a pedestal and shot? You know, what do you guys think out there? Let us know in the comments here on YouTube, of course. We're right down here at the bottom. You can also email me or email. I'm so antiquated. It's so cute. You can tweet me. You can Facebook me or Instagram me. It's JJ as well. JJ's on Instagram at the Renegade JJ Williams. No, not the Renegade of Wrestling. For those of you asking me, because he's not just the Renegade of Wrestling anymore. That's so 2011. Jeez. He is the Renegade, flat out, brother. And you can reach him there. We're doing every other week is wrestling and non-wrestling. We're just going back and forth. And you're also going to alternate weeks, period, because you're going to see the trivia one week on the Greg Cherry brand, which, by the way, youtube.com/Greg Cherry brand for the Wrestling Trivia Challenge. You can find my stuff on nerdq.com and NerdQ channel every Thursday on YouTube at AaronRiffNerdQ on YouTube, and youtube.com/Jeff Meacham. If you're watching that here, you already know. And again, thank you all for listening on Anchor as well. If you've honestly watched on YouTube and then listened on Anchor, you're making me money and you're dealing with me twice. So I love you, all of you, for that. And JJ and I are very appreciative of the fact that you guys wanted this back, because much like my thing with Aaron, my little bitch fit with Aaron that I had all those years ago, is stupid shit. And we work so well together and we have such a good dynamic that, you know, I hated not being together. Like, it sucked not collaborating. I can imagine, you know, going a few weeks and coming right back, and we go right back into it like nothing has changed. And with you and with Aaron both, I've never had that dynamic with anybody else. Anybody else, for the record. So I appreciate you wanting to be back. I appreciate you wanting to contribute to these shows. It's amazing how this silly little wrestling business has brought lives together over the years. And, you know, I will forever remember walking into that front door 11 and a half years ago and having people mark out for the fact that the great and powerful Jeff Meacham was walking into their house. It's weird to think about it now, knowing where the two people that were marking out have gone in their lives and where our friendships have gone. It's just bizarre, but I love that we're still able to come together. So I thank you for being here, as always. Next week, back to the wrestling, because, well, it's a wrestling channel. So, but anything else you want to throw out there to the peeps?
No, I mean, I did have some honorable mentions that I wanted to throw out there, but I feel like we've already done the wrap-up. We're way too long as it is. I can message you. You can just put them in the description, my honorable mentions. Just want to throw out there and say it's an honor and a privilege to be back here doing this with you as well, sir. I was looking for some kind of way to be creative and have a creative outlet during this whole coronavirus pandemic. The opportunity presented itself for me and you to be able to do this way. Granted, we'd prefer to be sitting next to each other or across a table doing this, but this is still productive and getting things done. And to think that something so bad, I guess, so tragic as the pandemic could be what brought the catalyst that brought this back.
Right.
I'm kind of glad to be here, so, you know.
Yeah, and what's funny is our across the table shows are still getting comments. I don't know if you saw the other day, or it was a while ago that we taped this now. Our 2014 Rumble preview or review or whatever got a comment. Like, the comment said, "Hi, I'm in 2020, and this Rumble sucked." I'm thinking, yeah, it did. The 14 Rumble is pretty bad, so it's just funny that people jones for us to be back so much, and then there's people that are like, "What do you mean back? What are you talking about?" And they go through the archives and go, "Oh," and then they go through and realize that there's stuff on the other channel. They go, "Oh, it's a crying shame that I can't post the XMV classics, right? Because of shenanigans. Because there is so much. Again, I think the epitaph of the Jeff Meacham Network when it dies is going to be meat on the bone. But there's so much meat on the Jeff Meacham bone prior to 2007 that nobody has seen. And I'd love to be able to present it one day. But our stuff is there. It's on the Renegade YouTube channel. Our stuff on my channel is all there, going back 6 years. So, it's all out there. And, even if we never come back a single time, the dads will endure. And I think it's wonderful. So, and I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody being here for the last 500 minutes. It's greatly appreciated. We will see you guys or hear you guys next time right here on the Dads Not Always on Wrestling.